All right, we're going to move away from the Hornets because you brought up a name that's going to segue perfectly to our next topic. You talked about James Harden. And sadly for Sixers fans, now that Joel Embiid is down for the next week and a half, 2 weeks, it's terrible to see the MVP frontrunner go down. But since he did, we got to update this MVP talk because he was running away with it and then he got sat down. So now there's opportunity for a lot of guys to step up. And I'm going to throw some names at you. Damian Lillard, James Harden, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's other Luka Doncic.
LeBron's up there, obviously.
LeBron too. Which one of these names stick to you most as maybe knocking Joel Embiid off of that MVP frontrunner spot?
Yeah, so I got a list I'm gonna put out on my Instagram page about A-Kiss NBA. But I will say, if you really look at it right now, you kind of got to give the edge to LeBron James because LeBron James not only does he have the game, he has the analytics to back him up. Offensive rating, defensive rating, he's number one right now. He has the narrative with Anthony Davis being out as well. They're still winning games. At first, they went on a little 4-game losing streak. Everybody was a little worried, but then, Dennis Schroeder came back. Now they're winning games, 11-2 without Anthony Davis. So if LeBron can keep doing what he's doing, and then if Joel comes back, because I still think Joel should be the front runner. I don't think his injury, because he's not going to be out like a month or so. He's going to be out about 2 weeks, and he's going to come back. So I don't think he should just get knocked down all the way to 4, 5, 6. I still think he should be the top 2, top 3 when we're talking about the MVP category. But as of right now, I would say LeBron James has to be the front runner, other than Joel Embiid, in my opinion.
I'm surprised. To be honest, I'm surprised, and I guess I shouldn't be so surprised. But the surge that I've seen from guys like Damian Lillard over the past week, Luka Doncic over the past week, James Harden said he's gotten to the Nets. Like a lot of people attribute to what the Nets are doing to what James Harden is doing. I would think those guys would take the leap, but I guess I shouldn't be so surprised because there's that narrative that LeBron should have more than 4 MVPs. So the league is going to look to at least narrative wise look to give him another MVP. But why don't we go down this list, Jay? You were about to say something.
Well, I was going to say. Go ahead, Matt.
The defense, the best argument for LeBron to be MVP, and I don't think he should be second place behind Embiid. I think it should be Jokic. But Anthony Davis has missed 18 of the Lakers' 41 games, and they still have the best defense in the league.
That's
this
LeBron.
year.
Yeah, that's LeBron.
That's LeBron's actually trying on defense. He's playing an insane amount of minutes, but LeBron's having like the 9th best season of his career.
Right.
Like it's nothing like spectacular. I'll get to my Jokic point after we go around.
But to piggyback off that, that's like, that's the standard LeBron has set for himself, and that's another narrative that goes along. Is he an MVP or is he not an MVP to LeBron's standard? Like the MVP seasons he's put in, he's not having one of those. But in this season, he's carrying a Lakers team that it should be noted how much he's carrying this Lakers team, and should he be rewarded that the fact that he's 36 and playing 35, 40 minutes a night.
And you guys,
you don't get rewarded for your age.
Well, Matt, I mean, you say that, and I personally don't think that, but you got to remember, it's not numbers and stats that decide this award. It's people, it's humans, it's writers. And, we had Doris Burke on the radio.com NBA podcast. She said she's a voter. She said she 100% factors in narrative to things like this. You're looking at people who will look at LeBron and say, okay, he has the Lakers, no Anthony Davis. He did what he did. They're the best defense in the league at that age. He's been spurned a couple years in the past. He's been complaining to the media about it a couple straight years.
He's been spurned once.
So all that put together, plus, the fact that how many more great LeBron seasons do we have? You got the media who, say what you will, love LeBron, rightfully so. They, they may see it that, hey, look, we want to get him one on his way out. All that being said, I do think, James, and you can go through, there are some other guys who will press him.
Yeah, well, let's go through all of them. We can make an MVP case probably for all these guys that I'm about to name.
Can we start with Jokic? Because
Go ahead, start with Jokic.
Jokic is averaging more points per game than LeBron, more rebounds per game than LeBron, more assists per game than LeBron, and he's number 1 in win shares, and he's more efficient than LeBron.
Right.
He's better at 2-point percentage, better at 3-point percentage, better at free. LeBron actually absolutely has the edge on defense, but They're 24-16. The Nuggets, like they're not like middling in the pack like they were a couple weeks ago. They're back in being a contender, and I think Jokic has to be the front runner right now.
What are they? The 6th seed right now?
So that was my question. Where are they? Where are they?
They're tied with Portland at 24-16.
Yeah, those are
which is only
that's middle of the pack.
3.5 games back of the Lakers.
5 seed.
Yeah, it's middle of the pack. You know, like Jokic, as great as he is, I think for when you start talking about rewarding the MVP and giving it to a big man, you got to play defense. You know, especially these modern day bigs. You look at what Joel Embiid is doing, same type of stats and statistics on the offensive side, just like Nikola Jokic, but he plays defense and he's a defensive player of the year candidate. You look at LeBron.
I agree with you, Embiid, Jokic, but Jokic, the assists are just
that's true.
That's stupid
definitely.
that his center can do that.
Right.
And LeBron James is also, we talk about offense, but defensively, he has a case for the Defensive Player of the Year award as well. So it's just that's going to help his MVP case. He may not win the Defensive Player of the Year award, but he may finish like top 3, top 4, top 5, and he also has a chance potentially to be on the All-NBA Defensive First Team this year as well at the age of 36. So it's just kind of like you look at those things with LeBron James, offense, defense, 36. Anthony Davis is out. The Lakers are a top 2 seeds, 1.5 games behind the Utah Jazz for the first seed. It's going to be hard unless Joel Embiid or Damian Lillard, the Portland Trail Blazers, go on a run, in my opinion, to really give it to another person over LeBron James, especially right now. And he's 36 years old, year 18. It's going to be those writers, those people that are voting.
You got to factor it in that. You got to factor it in.
You got to factor a lot of those things.
Yeah. But Jokic, 36 double-doubles, 10 triple-doubles in 40 games. Like we said, they're tied with the Blazers for 5th in the Western Conference. Ahmad, is there anything that Jokic could do to warrant giving him the MVP in your mind? Like, is there something that could happen at the end of the season? You're like, give it to Jokic.
No.
He said no.
Because he's not.
How can he mention Lillard and not Jokic when they have the same record?
I can mention Damian Lillard because Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum was out half the year. Damian Lillard's been doing this for years. The same thing that people are talking about having Steph Curry be in the MVP race early on in the season, of not playing on a mediocre team compared to all those great teams that he's played on. Damian Lillard's been doing this for years consistently, and people don't reward him. So it's just kind of like, that's just my thought.
Go ahead, Jake.
A guy who I think everyone who we mentioned definitely has a case. I don't know how much of a case James Harden has for 2 reasons. Number one, there will be a certain group of people, even if Kevin Durant has been out and James Harden has been awesome, but Kevin Durant's eventually going to come back, and that will likely end the Harden talk. But the real second, factor, I think, is that there's going to be a lot of people who hold against him, right or wrong, what happened in Houston, the way that he played himself out of Houston. Say what you will. I don't really have a problem with what he did, but there will be people who do. I just think that we kind of have to at least note what he has been doing without Kevin Durant has been incredible. He's kind of putting up like those Russell Westbrook MVP type lines, except Brooklyn's arguably the number 1 team in the East with the Sixers. So, kudos to James Harden. He has been showing out, and when all 3 guys have been healthy, he has been a leader in the sense that he has taken a step back when he needs to. He doesn't have to always have the ball in his hands. He's okay with being the facilitator, which you guys remember we talked about this a couple episodes ago. I didn't know if that was going to be possible. He's shown that it is.
I don't know why. 2017, he was doing everything that he's doing right now with the Brooklyn Nets for his facilitating, passing the ball. So people always talk about James Harden's scoring ability, but he's not just a phenomenal scorer. He's also one of the greatest passers and facilitators in the history game has ever seen. So
Lillard had a 50-point 10-assist game the other night, and they had a stat like the most 50-point 10-assist games ever, and like Lillard was tied for second with 3, and then first place was Harden with 8.
Yeah,
like he's a special
serious.
player.
He's serious. Another guy I would say that people aren't talking about is Jimmy Butler. Like, this was a team that was
down and out
because of COVID. Missed the most games, having players miss the most games because of COVID. Jimmy Butler comes back. The Miami Heat was looking like they weren't even make the playoffs, and then Jimmy Butler comes back.
What are they, 3rd or 4th seed right now in the East? 4th seed in the East?
4th seed right now? It's kind of like he deserves some credit. Another guy, you look at Giannis Antetokounmpo, back-to-back MVP. I think, to be honest, this year people are sleeping on Giannis, but this year, if you look at some of the years in the past, this may be his best year right now. What he's
29,
doing,
12, and 6 on 62% true shooting. Like this is, I know people are not going to want to give him a third straight MVP, but if you're doing it by the numbers, he's having arguably a better season than either of his MVP years.
That's what I'm saying. But it's just kind of like so many times the media casts the MVP based on narratives and stuff like that, and it's just kind of like he's probably not.
I'm a big give the MVP to the person who played rest in the regular season, but we can't give it to Giannis. That's my veto. That's my one exception.
I don't think Giannis.
After the meltdown the Bucks had in the playoffs, they were 50-5 last year. Like no one really talks about how big of a collapse that was. It was like Mavericks losing to the Warriors collapse, and after that happens, you got to prove it in the playoffs. You can't get a third straight MVP after.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's why he's not in my top 5, strictly because of his deficiencies in his game and his weaknesses in his game. Nothing has really improved to me. He's worked on his footwork, I would say, this year. But to me, I think he's going to be, unless he moves to center in the playoffs, is in place the position he probably really should be playing, and not this point forward, point guard type of guard that has the ball in his hands, running up and down the floor, passing the ball, and trying to dunk on everybody, doing everything. But I feel that's why he's not in my top 5 for the MVP race.
And I think that's right. Like, if we're going to reward someone based on narrative, we should be able to punish someone based on narrative. And I'm not going to give you a regular season award just to watch you crap out in the playoffs each year. The most valuable player award just to watch you, get run off the court by the Miami Heat in the playoffs. Like, I'm done doing that. But going along that line of, like, I feel like narrative is what we're leaning towards here instead of numbers. And I'm fine with that. Because if we are leaning that way, I think Damian Lillard should be amongst the top 3 to top 5 MVP getters in the league right now. You talk about a guy who's never ran from, the grind, so to speak, that he says, never wanted to join another team, never complained about the team he was on. He just goes out and works and hoops every single chance that he gets, and is one of the most tenacious players in the NBA. And if we're going to reward somebody for anything, we might as well reward Damian Lillard for sticking it out with the Trailblazers, dealing with injuries to CJ McCollum, to Nurkic, to Zach Collins. To every year, half of his team goes out, and he never complains. He just laces up whenever he can and battles his team to the playoffs every single year. Like, we should be able to reward someone like that.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't mind seeing Damian Lillard win the MVP award, because especially if you look at like some of the top players, like LeBron James, even though Anthony Davis has been out, he has Anthony Davis. James Harden, even though Kevin Durant has been out, he's still going to have Kevin Durant. You look at
Kyrie
and Kyrie. So if you look at that narrative, you look at Nikola Jokic, he kind of can be over those guys. If you're looking at that narrative, who's his number 2? Jamal Murray. He hasn't been playing like the bubble, so it's just kind of like Jamal Murray, Jimmy Butler, another guy people haven't been talking about and should be talking about, should be in the top 5, I would say, for the MVP conversation. That's the guy on your jersey, Chris Paul. This is guy's a franchise changer, has the Phoenix Suns in the 2nd seed overall right now, and it's just kind of like nobody's talking about or giving the credit that he's doing. He's basically LeBron James, but 6 feet. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what he is, but it's just kind of like nobody's talking about Chris Paul.
Honestly, Ahmad, that's probably the greatest thing you could ever have said to me. That's like, that was so poetic. I've never heard someone put it in those terms, and it's absolutely correct. He's LeBron, but 6 feet tall. I will stay there till I die. I'm dying on that hill right there. Thank you for putting that in there.
All right, so do you guys want to, let's go around, I guess, maybe, and give out who do we think at the end of the year, put a stamp on it. If we had to pick right now, who is your MVP? I'll just go out and start by saying I'm obligated to say Joel Embiid. If he is, I win a lot of money. So beyond that, I'm a Sixers fan. And also, I just think when you look at his stats, it lines up with what Steph Curry did in his unanimous MVP year in terms of true shooting percentage, points, etc. And the Sixers, if they finish as the best team in the East, I think he has the narrative to go alongside it. So I'm going to stick with my man Joel.
Yeah, I'll jump on that bandwagon as well. And Ahmad made the point earlier, and it's great. Like, it's not like he's going to miss months. He's not going to miss an extended period of time to where 3, 4, 5 guys are going to jump over him in the MVP race. He's only out 2 weeks, and we're already 5, 6 days into those 2 weeks. So if he comes back, knock on wood, he comes back, where he's supposed to. He comes back healthy and just continues on what he was doing, pre-injury, it's still his award to lose, in my opinion. And I am optimistic in thinking that he's going to come back not only with just continuing what he's doing, but a little bit of a chip, a little bit with something to prove. Like, don't forget about me because I sat down for 2 weeks. I'm still the MVP. He's still the best player on the Sixers and willing them. So I'm going to go with Joel Embiid too at the end of the season.
My heart says Embiid. My head says Jokic.
Oh, wow.
You got to look.
Jokic is not winning that award, man. I'm sorry.
To each his own. Look how confident he is, man.
Wow.
Look how confident he is.
Wow. Man.
Go ahead. Defend the tape.
He is the best offensive player in basketball. And I don't think it's that close.
You're taking him over a guy like Lillard or Harden?
Based on what?
Yes.
Regular season?
He took the Nuggets to the conference finals, led a 3-1 comeback against a better Clippers team.
Yeah, that was a fluke, but yeah.
He said that was a fluke. I gotta defend my man. I gotta defend my man. Stat Matt can't let him get rifled on like this. I mean, for the first 2 months of the season, 2.5 months of the season, Jokic was averaging a triple double to where 21, 10, and 10 or something like that. And I don't want to take that lightly. Like, averaging a triple double is not easy. I don't care if it's for 10 or 15 games. Like, that is hard as hell to do. And the Nuggets are battling back. I don't think he'll win it, but I don't think it's as far-fetched as some people may make it seem or some people think.
No, I don't think he'll win it. It may not be far-fetched, but he said the best offensive player in the league. I mean, my goodness.
All things considered, I mean, this is a center who does it all on offense.
Yeah, he shoots 42% from three. He's averaging 28 points per game, and he gets 8 assists per game. That's LeBron. Like,
but he's a 5 seed.
He's just
a 5 seed.
But he's a 5 seed.
Well, I said offensive.
I know you said offensive. Right. I don't even know if he's the best offensive.
Harden is in that discussion too. I'd say him and Harden are the best 2 offensive players.
To be honest, Jokic may not even be the best offensive player on his team. if you really want to look down to it, Jamal Murray, we saw what he did in the bubble. It was kind of Jamal Murray was really their number one go-to guy when it really mattered the most and hitting those key shots and stuff like that. But to each his own. I mean, I respect it. I would say for the MVP race, if Joel Embiid can come back healthy and the Sixers get the number 1 seed, I think it's Joel Embiid. But if that doesn't happen, I think you're going to have to probably roll with LeBron James.
LeBron.
Yeah.